Welcome to DEQ's State of the Environment podcast. I'm Todd Parfitt, Director of the DEQ. Today we're going to talk with Jennifer Zygmunt, the Water Quality Division Administrator, and Keenan Hendon, who is our Water and Wastewater Section Manager. We're going to discuss water and wastewater infrastructure. We're going to start with Jennifer. Jennifer, what are we referring to when we use those phrases, water and wastewater infrastructure? And why should that be something that Wyoming citizens are concerned about or want to stay in tune with?
Yeah, so simply put, water and wastewater infrastructure refers to all of the physical structures that a community needs to deliver safe drinking water to a home or to take sewage from a home to a place where it can be treated before safely discharging it to the environment. And most people don't really understand what's involved with that. We just are happy when our taps turn on and our toilets flush. But in reality, there's a lot of work that communities and partner agencies have to do to plan and successfully implement that infrastructure so that we have clean water to drink and that sewage is treated safely before it gets into the environment. So the physical structures are a big part of it, but equally important are the people involved. Primarily, the operators who are certified to run Wyoming's treatment plants, both for drinking water and wastewater. We have about 1,200 certified operators in the state, and this is a really important workforce because they keep these treatment plants running, again, make sure that we've got clean water to drink and that our sewage is being treated. But there are many other people involved with infrastructure, the city planners who are designing projects, mayors and city councils who have to make tough decisions about infrastructure with limited funding, the citizens, all of us who are paying water and sewage bills, and then many state and federal agencies who work with these communities on these infrastructure projects.
So it sounds like there's more than just DEQ involved here. We work with a lot of different federal and state agencies and local agencies as well. And also importantly are the water and wastewater operators, which here just a few months ago were recognized by the governor for the great work that they do to make sure that we have clean water in our streams and clean drinking water for all of our citizens. Let's talk a little bit about what those other agencies are and how we coordinate and communicate with the different state agencies in particular, but also the federal agencies. They play a very important role in the infrastructure, in the water infrastructure that we have in the state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say it certainly is an all-hands-on-deck effort, and the partnerships that we have with state, local, and federal agencies is critical. But the good news is that we have common ground. Everybody's interested in making sure people have safe drinking water and that we're treating our wastewater. So I'll start with DEQ's role, a little bit more about what we do and what we don't do. First, Wyoming is the one state in the nation that has not assumed primacy for the Safe Drinking Water Act Public Water System Supervision Program. And this is the primary regulatory program under the Safe Drinking Water Act. And because Wyoming hasn't assumed primacy, that means that EPA Region 8 directly implements that program in Wyoming. So very important that we're working well with EPA. We are building communication and collaboration with EPA. We have good relationships to begin with, but we're looking for better ways to work with them on drinking water issues within the state.
So Jennifer, let me just jump in here real quick. So why is it that we don't have primacy for the drinking water program when all the other states do? Have we brought this up with the legislature or the governor in the past?
That's a great question, and it's a question that comes up from the legislature, I would say, maybe about every 10 years. And the primary reason why Wyoming has not assumed primacy is just the cost. We're a low population state, so for the funds that Wyoming would have to provide to implement that program, so far, the state, by my understanding, has determined that it would not be cost effective to assume that program. So again, EPA implements that program within the state, and they're doing a good job to protect our drinking water.
Okay, great. Well, let's talk a little bit about how many drinking water systems and wastewater treatment plants are in Wyoming and how they serve our small communities and how they interact with the DEQ. Keenan,
I guess
you were looking like you had something you wanted to add there.
Yep, absolutely. Happy to hop in with this next question. And essentially, within Wyoming, within our public water systems, we've got approximately 780 water systems around the state. Those are kind of classified. 411 of those are considered a community system. So if you think of a city, a town, or a special district, these are those types of systems. And then we also have non-community systems as well. And we got about 370 of those, 380 of these non-community systems. And if you think of perhaps a hospital district, maybe a school district, or maybe you're just gas station, RV, camping location located around the state.
How do we assess the status of the infrastructure itself? You know, is it as it ages? How do we keep track of that to make sure that we, as a state, with all of the entities that are involved, how do we ensure that the water and wastewater systems stay up to date with technology and stay in good repair?
Yeah, great question. And as Jennifer mentioned, it is pretty much a hands-on deck approach where we partner with a number of different agencies, either at the state or federal level. With EPA having primacy, they will come in and do sanitary surveys and work with our public water systems around the state. And essentially, they'll provide kind of a status update or areas that a water system needs to focus on or address with some perhaps significant deficiencies, as what EPA likes to call those, or just some areas of concern that need to be addressed and updated depending on the status of the water system. Additionally, we also have district engineers within Wyoming that work in the water and wastewater section. They write the permits for the various public water systems as well as wastewater facilities that we have around the state. And they will also conduct some site visits from time to time periodically where they could do some site investigations and assist with the community. Additionally, systems will also reach out from time to time with regards to questions or concerns regarding their system that they'd like to address. And again, we could either have a district engineer assist them, or we also have some technical assistance providers that are provided through the State Revolving Fund program that we could direct to help out those communities as well.
And I would add that we're also working with our communities on asset management planning, which is a really important part of capacity development, or making sure that our communities have the technical, managerial, and financial skills they need in order to run their plants. And we're piloting a project to develop asset management plans for 6 community public water systems. This is going to be a really great effort to help them identify what assets they are, what the critical assets are, what financial rates they need in order to support that infrastructure, and just making sure that they're in compliance with federal, state, and local regulations to provide safe drinking water. So we're really excited about that effort and then broadening it to other systems around the state.
Jennifer, you had mentioned that EPA does a pretty good job implementing the drinking water program for the state of Wyoming. And I would agree with that. But there are instances from time to time where we may have disagreements, or our small communities have disagreements with the findings and interpretations by EPA. Let's talk about the role the DEQ can play and has played in supporting the local communities and understanding what those results are. And sometimes we may agree with EPA, sometimes we may disagree, and we can be of assistance to those local communities in pushing back a little bit on EPA and their interpretation. And that's been successful in some instances. So if we could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as Keenan said, one of our biggest roles is technical assistance. And most of Wyoming's communities are small communities. 83% of our public water systems serve populations less than 500. So the vast majority of the systems within Wyoming are small, and they may lack some of the resources they need for infrastructure in general, and making sure that we're working toward the best path forward. And Todd, as you mentioned, DEQ has worked with these communities when EPA has made a decision that the community is challenged by and that DEQ may not agree with. So we want to make sure that the program is being implemented in a way that best represents the interests of our community and resolves compliance issues in a way that's financially stable for that community. These communities may have very small operating budgets, so we need to make sure that we correctly identify the source of a problem if there is one, and then find engineering solutions that will work to address that solution in as cost-effective of a manner as possible. And maybe Keenan, as a professional engineer himself, can talk a little bit more about some of what the technical assistance we can provide is.
Thank you, Jennifer. With regards to the State Revolving Fund Program, we do operate with and coordinate with our partner agencies at the Office of State Lands and Investments and then the Water Development Office as well. Essentially, we're currently in the process of wrapping up our intended use plan, and the intended use plan is essentially a priority project list with regards to clean water projects as well as our drinking water projects located around the state. That project priority list identifies the projects that we want to, or at least the projects that community is planning to implement fairly quickly to utilize the funds that have been provided through the EPA capitalization grant provided to the states. And currently, we've got a number of funding buckets that have been provided by the EPA or through the Investment Infrastructure Jobs Act recently. Some of those funds are an increase to the traditional drinking water and clean water projects. And then we also have funds available for the lead service line inventories and then emerging contaminant projects as well located within our state. So presently, we've wrapped up the intended use plan to identify project priority lists for drinking water, clean water, lead service lines, and then emerging contaminants within our state as well.
So what I'm hearing is that it takes a lot of involvement from a lot of agencies, federal, state, and local, to make the whole system work, and they all have to work together. And I think we do a very good job. Jennifer, Keenan, your programs do great work in communicating with the other state agencies, with EPA, and certainly with the local communities. And that's important because that's the only way we're going to be successful is if we work together for those outcomes. Now, before we wrap it up, I'd like to just see if Jennifer or Keenan want to add any other key points before we wrap up this session.
Yeah, I think for me, I just want to highlight a few more partners who are pretty pivotal in this effort. And we've talked about the federal agencies, EPA. We've talked about state agencies, but there's a lot of local agencies and organizations that are pretty critical as well. The Wyoming Association of Rural Water Systems and the Midwest Assistance Program are two of the key technical assistance providers that work with our small communities and transient systems around the state. Of course, we work with individual municipalities, but also the Wyoming Association of Municipalities and the County Commissioners Association. The other federal agency that can provide some infrastructure assistance is the USDA Rural Development Agency. And then other state agencies who we coordinate with quite a bit would be Department of Health, Department of Ag, Homeland Security, and again, just the many representatives that we work with from individual cities and towns.
Yeah, and to follow on with what Jennifer just mentioned, we're quite pleased to work with our Wyoming Association of Rural Water Supplies. They provide technical assistance to our non-community water systems, and then Midwest Assistance Program provides technical assistance to our public water systems located throughout the state. And as mentioned, public water systems in Wyoming are quite small. Essentially 99% are classified as small and disadvantaged through the State Revolving Fund Program, and that's based on a population of under 10,000. So creates a unique opportunity for us to work with our water systems throughout the state. And through the State Revolving Fund Program, we're quite excited with some of the initiatives that we're pursuing. One of those is the development of asset management plans with a contractor and consultant that we're looking to deploy, hopefully to all public water systems within our state, at least with community initially. And then after that, we're looking to get started with an emergency response plan coordinator or contractor to assist our public water systems and wastewater infrastructure. And that kind of developed after the Elk Mountain fire and coordinating with our communities that were impacted in those areas. So quite a few new initiatives that we're looking to pursue and excited to get those implemented and off the ground and see what results we can provide to our communities and to our state.
And I'll add one more into that list, which is the lead line inventory project. And I think that's another one to highlight in that we're working with the contractor to help get the lead out in Wyoming, first inventorying where there are lead lines in Wyoming, and next developing projects to get those lead lines removed so that there's less exposure to lead for Wyoming citizens.
Keenan,
I was just going to hop in and say, to get the lead out, if you go to wyriskit.com, that's the website. So if you have questions, either as a citizen or as a water system, feel free. It's a free service. And The goal is to assist all of our public water systems with regards to getting the inventory and then pursuing some of the funding that's available through the SRF program to either inventory or remediate any lead or unknown lines per the requirements for the lead and copper rule.
So Jennifer, you mentioned the lead pipeline replacement program, and that's one example of a lot of important work that's happening in the state right now. We've had great participation by the local communities to identify an inventory where those lead lines are and start the process for replacing those lead lines. All of these programs result in healthier communities, healthier population for the state of Wyoming. So Jennifer, Keenan, thank you so much for the work that you do. It's important, and you do a great job. With that, we'll wrap up this State of the Environment podcast and look forward to our listeners joining us at the next podcast.